Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 6, Text 32. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Synonyms: Atma, self. Aupamyena, by comparison. Sarvatra, everywhere. Samam, equality. Pashyati, sees. Yaha, he who. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Sukham, happiness. Va, or. Yadi, if. Va, or. Dukham, distress. Saha, such. Yogi, transcendentalist. Paramaha, perfect. Mataha, considered. Translation: He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Purport: One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being. Krishna is the proprietor of all lands and planets. The perfect yogi is the sincerest friend of all living entities. He knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. Because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Natasmad kaschit me priyakrit tamaha. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. Text 33. Arjuna uvacha Yoyam yogastvaya proktaha Samyena madhusudana Yatasyaham na pashyami Chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. Synonyms: Arjunaha uvacha. Arjuna said, Yaha, the system. I am, this. Yogaha, mysticism. Tvaya, by you. Proktaha, described. Samyena, generally. Madhusudana, O killer of the demon Madhu. Etasya, of this. Aham, I. Na, do not. Pashyami, see. Chanchalatvat, due to being restless. Sthitim, situation. Stiram, stable. Translation: Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, The system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Shuchau Deshe and ending with Yogi Paramaha, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for a life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization even by simple practical means. And what to speak of this difficult yoga system which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior, he had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. Text 34. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati bhalavad dridham tasyaham nigraham manye Vayorivasu dushkaram. Synonyms. Chanchalam, flickering. He, certainly. Manaha, mind. Krishna, O Krishna. Pramati, agitating. Balavat, strong. Dridham, obstinate. Tasya, its. Aham, I. Nigraham, subduing. Manye, think. Vayoho, of the wind. Iva, like. Sudushkaram, difficult. Translation. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it is, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literatures, it is said, Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratamevacha buddhintu saratim vidhi Manaha pragrahamevacha Indriyani hayanahur Vishayamsteshu gocharan Atmendriya mano yukto Bhokte tyahur manishinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers, intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. The method prescribed is Savai Manaha Krishna Padara Vindayoho. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind.